Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Favor, and in today's tutorial we'll be learning how to make this beautiful shoulder bag. Okay, so let's get right into the tutorial. The materials we'll be needing for this tutorial, we'll be needing a pair of scissors, your yarn needle, a measuring tape, and also be needing some stitch markers. Okay, you'll be needing up to 6 stitch markers. Okay, I have just 2, so I'll be using these 4 pieces of thread to complete it 6. Okay, and then I'll also be using a size 4mm hook. You can use any hook size of your choice. All right, so this is the yarn I'll be using. 2 colors of yarn. It is a fingering lightweight yarn. All right, I will be using 2 strands of the fingering lightweight yarn. Okay, so you can use 1 strand of a worsted weight yarn if that is what you have. Okay, now the width of our bag is going to be about 9 inches wide. Okay, so we are going to be doubling that, and we'll be making a chain that is going to be about 18 inches long. Okay, so that when we fold it like this and join our chain or our work, this is what we are going to be having for the base of our band, which is going to be 9-inch wide. All right, so to get started, you want to take your yarn, place it on your hook, twist around, yarn over and pull through, and there we have made a slip knot. Okay, so after you have your slip knot, now you want to yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through, and keep making that, which is going to be our chain. And we want to keep doing this until we have about 18 inches length of chain. I have made about 18-inch length of chain. Okay, so let's measure it together. Okay, while you're measuring, try as much as not to stretch out your chain. We are measuring the unstretched chain. Okay, so you can see it's almost 18, and when you stretch it, it is more than 18, but that's not what we are going for. So you make sure it's 18 inches unstretched. All right, and when you have that, now the next thing for us to do is that we are going to start working on our chains, as you can see. Okay, so we are going to start working back on those chains, and we are going to be making half double crochet on top of every stitch. So to make your half double crochet, yarn over, okay, and then onto the second chain from your hook. That's the first, this is the second, and then you want to insert your hook into that second chain, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through all the 3 loops on your hook. Now you want to place a stitch marker on that very first stitch there, because that is going to be your first half double crochet for this round. Okay, so now I want to continue doing that. You yarn over into the next chain, you insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through all the 3 loops on your hook. That is going to be your second half double crochet. So now I'm just doing the third half double crochet. Okay, you want to keep making this all the way until you get to the end of the row. Now I'm towards the end of the row. As you can see, I'm just finishing my last couple of stitches. Okay, so I'm placing my last half double crochet into the very last chain stitch. Okay, so this is what we have. Now you want to arrange it and make sure that your work is not twisted on any part, and then we are going to fold it, as you can see what I'm doing right now. So you fold it towards the middle, and we are going to join the 2 ends together. Okay, so make sure it's not twisted, and then we are going to be joining that front part to the other first part so that we can start working in rounds. Okay, so to join, now you want to take off the stitch marker from that very first stitch there, and then we are going to join it by making a slip stitch through both loops on our hook, like so. So once you have your slip stitch, you want to chain 1. Okay, and then this is what we have joined that work there, and don't bother about the end. We are going to sew them together later. Okay, so now after you've chained 1, you want to turn your work, pull up a loop like so, and then we are going to make our half double crochet into the very first stitch space there. Okay, so you want to place your very first half double crochet there, and remember to always place your stitch marker on your very first stitch, okay, which is your very first half double crochet. After that, you want to yarn over and keep making half double crochet on top of each of the very next stitches. Okay, so yarn over into the next stitch, you place a half double crochet, yarn over into the next stitch, you place a half double crochet. So you just keep making half double crochet all the way around until you get towards the end of the row. Okay, and I'll show you how to join. Now I'm towards the end of the row, as you can see. Okay, no part of my work is twisted, so you want to make sure of that. and then we are going to keep working on the remaining stitches, and make sure to place your last stitch on that very last stitch there where we slip stitch to join on the first round. Okay, so that is where you are going to place your last half double crochet. Okay, so after you place your last half double crochet, so you want to take off that stitch marker from that first stitch there, and then we slip stitch to the top of that very first stitch there. Okay, so you slip stitch to join that round, and this is what it looks like. So after you have slip stitch to join, you want to chain one, turn your work, then pull up a loop as usual, and then into that very stitch space there, that is where we are going to be placing our very first half double crochet. Okay, so placing your very first half double crochet there. Okay, remember to place your stitch marker, yarn over, and then into the next stitch place another half double crochet, into the next stitch another half double crochet, and for the place where we'll be placing our last stitch when we get to the end of the row, okay, you can see that very little V, okay, closest to the very first stitch there. Okay, that is where we'll be placing our last stitch. That is the place where we slip stitch to join from the previous round. So you just place a stitch marker there so that you remember it when you get to the end of the row. So you just keep making half double crochets all the way around until you get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. So now when you get to the end of the row, okay, I'm just finishing my couple of last stitches, and then that place where you have your stitch marker, you take it off, and then you place your very last half double crochet into that very stitch space where you removed your stitch marker from. So the next thing now is that we are going to slip stitch to join to the top of that very first half double crochet that we have there. So place a slip stitch to the top of that very first half double crochet that we have there. Okay, once you place your slip stitch, you want to take your stitch marker and mark that very stitch there where we made our slip stitch. Okay, so once you have attached your stitch marker, chain one, pull up a loop, turn, and you can see that place where we have our stitch marker is going to be our last stitch for this row we are working for now. So you yarn over into the very first stitch space there. You want to make your first half double crochet for this row. Okay, and remember to always place a stitch marker for the very first half double crochet that you make. This is super important so that you don't make mistakes. So you yarn over into the next, place another half double crochet, and just what we've been doing for the previous round. So half double crochet all the way around until you get to the end of the row. Now towards the end of that row, okay, you can see where our last stitch is, which is where we placed our stitch marker. So I'm just finishing off the remaining stitches, and for that last stitch you take off the stitch marker and place your last half double crochet for that row. Okay, so once you've placed your last half double crochet, you remove the stitch marker from the very first stitch and slip stitch to the top of that very first stitch there and join that round. Okay, now place your stitch marker on that stitch there where we slip stitch to join. Okay, so once you've placed your stitch marker, you want to chain one, pull up a loop, turn your work, and then we are going to be making our very first half double crochet into that very first stitch space there. Okay, so place your half double crochet, place your stitch marker on the stitch that you just made. Okay, so it's just a repetition of what we did for the previous row. Okay, and that stitch there is going to be your last stitch when you get to the end of the row. So you just keep doing half double crochet all the way around till you get to the end of the row. So this is what our joining so far looks like. Okay, so you just want to keep repeating this pattern row after row until you have it long enough to be about 6 inches, okay, in length. Okay, so right now this is the length that we have, so we'll just keep doing that until we have about 6 inches. Now I'm on the last row, which is going to make the length of my work 6 inches. So I'm just finishing the last couple of stitches I have there, and I'm going to be leaving that last stitch there, okay, because I'm going to be switching to my new color of yarn. So just a quick measure, you can see the length of the work is about 6 inches in length. Okay, so now for the next row we are going to be introducing our new color of yarn. Okay, so we are first of all going to finish off that last stitch there. Okay, as we are finishing off, that is when we are going to introduce our new color. So yarn over, insert your hook into that very last stitch remaining. Okay, Instead of yarning over and pulling through all loops of our on our hook like we would normally do before we slip stitch, okay, so you want to yarn over, insert your hook. Now when you have the 3 loops on your hook, you want to drop that current yarn you are working with, which is yellow for me, and I'm introducing my new yarn, which is the purple yarn. Okay, so you want to use that new color of yarn and use it to finish off that very last stitch there. Okay, when you finish up, you can see that you now have purple on your hook. All right, and then we are going to slip stitch to join like we would normally do. Okay, so you slip stitch to join to that very first stitch there, and after that you want to chain 1 and turn your work, and you can pull on the tail of that purple to tighten, and also for the yellow to tighten your work. And we are going to keep making a half double crochet like usual. So remember, place your stitch marker into that very first stitch there, and onto that very stitch where we slip stitch to join, you place your stitch marker, which is going to be your last stitch. Okay, so continue making half double crochet all the way around until you get to the end of the row. Okay, so that is just what we are going to be doing for this row. And then for that tail there, which is the previous yarn you're working with, you're going to cut off that tail, and then we are going to tie twice. Okay, you knot it twice to secure that yarn, and I would advise you to knot on the wrong side of your work. So you want to choose a part. So for me, that inside is going to be the wrong side, and this part is going to be the right side of my work. So you keep making half double crochet all the way around until you get to the end of the row. Okay, so now we have about 6 inches. That is what we have worked with the yellow yarn. Okay, so now we are going to keep working with the purple yarn until we have about 8 inches in length, which is the length that we are going for. Okay, so just keep doing that row after row until you have about 8 inches. So at this point I have about 8 inches in length total of my work. The purple part is about 2 inches, and then plus the other 6, I have 8 inches in total. Okay, so we are just going to, I'm just finishing off this round because I've not done the last stitch. Okay, so I'll take off my stitch marker, and then I'm going to slip stitch to join the round. Okay, so after we slip stitch to join, we are going to fasten off. All right, so you slip stitch, and then you want to chain 1, pull up a loop, and then you cut in between that loop. Okay, then pull that tail and then tug on the other end to tighten. So now we have finished that round. Now you want to make sure that this part with that tail, you can see that's where we have been joining so far. So we want to make sure that this part that the seam side is going to be on the side of our work. So you want to fold it like this and lay it flat, and make sure that that seam is on the side of your work like so. So you want to lay it out really flat and then smoothen it to get equal sizes on both sides of your work. Okay, so after that, the next thing, now we are going to place stitch markers in between the center parts. Okay, so any stitch that is in between that center part like so, you're just going to take your stitch marker and mark in between, as you can see what I'm doing. So you can go ahead and count the stitches if you prefer, and then mark on the center of both sides of your work. Okay, now after placing your stitch markers on both sides, we are going to mark out for these straps, and that will be 2 inches from both sides, starting from that middle part. Okay, and this is going to be the right side of your work, and the inside is going to be the wrong side of your work. All right, so now to mark out the 2 inches, we're going to count how many stitches in our work is going to amount to 2 inches. So you place your tape on any part of your work like so. All right, and then you want to count how many stitches are covered with the 2 inches. So you can see where my tape is, and then I'm counting the stitches. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So I have 8 stitches. So 8 stitches for me is 2 inches. Yours can be different. All right, so depending on how many you get, we are now going to count that amount of stitches towards to this right side of our work, and then to the other side of the work as well, and then place a stitch marker there. So starting from that center stitch marker that we marked, you want to count your stitches. So for me it is 8. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then you want to mark in between, okay, immediately after that 8, your last stitch that you need for the 2 inches mark. Okay, so this is where this yarn that I'm going to be using for stitch marker comes into place, because yeah, I don't know what happened to all my stitch markers, but yeah. So after you mark that 8 stitch, you want to count from the other side as well. So from there you count another 8 stitches, and then you want to mark immediately after the 8th stitch there. So you place your stitch marker there as well, and then we are going to repeat the same exact thing on the other side where we have our stitch marker. Okay, so in total 2 plus 2, you're going to have about 4 inches in total. Okay, so from this side to this side is 2 inches. Okay, and from this side to this other side is 2 inches. So depending on how many stitches that you need, okay, you have to count accordingly and then mark those stitches like that, and do the same thing on this other side of the work as well. Another thing to take note of is to make sure that you have the same number of stitches on both sides of your work, so that your straps will look identical to each other. All right, so after marking your straps, the next thing we are going to do is to attach our yarn right to that very top stitch of the very first stitch there where we placed our stitch marker. Okay, so you insert your hook, and then you want to bring your yarn through, tie it. Okay, you knot twice to attach the yarn to that stitch there, and after that you want to insert your hook into that very same stitch space, and then you want to yarn over, pull through, and then chain 1. Okay, after you have your chain 1, the next thing for you to do now is to yarn over, and into that same stitch space where we attached our yarn, we are going to make a half double crochet there. Remember to place a stitch marker at the very first half double crochet you made right there. Okay, so I'm just going to use my yarn, the one I just took off, to reattach back, okay, to mark my very first stitch. All right, and after we have attached our stitch, the next thing we will need to do is to keep making half double crochets on top of every stitch all the way across. So after marking into the very next stitch, you make your half double crochet, into the next stitch another half double crochet, and we'll keep doing that all the way until you get to that stitch marker at the center there, and I'll meet you there. Now when you get to where that stitch marker is, you want to take it off and then continue working your half double crochet into the very next stitches, and keep doing that until you get to the other part of the stitch marker as well. All right, so now we are towards that part where that stitch marker is, and that's the very last stitch there. So you want to take off that stitch marker, all right, and place your very last stitch on that place where you placed your stitch marker. Okay, so you are going to have the exact same number of stitches you marked on both sides. Okay, so 8 plus 8 is going to give us 18 stitches. All right, so after that you want to chain 1, turn your work, remember to pull up a loop, and then we are going to work on the very first next stitch. So this row is going to be a decrease row, okay, which is row 2. So after you make your very first stitch, remember, place your stitch marker there, and then you want to skip the second stitch. Okay, that second stitch, which is the next stitch, you skip it and walk into the third stitch. All right, so you place your half double crochet into the third stitch, and then into the next stitch you place another half double crochet. So you are not going to skip any more stitches, and keep making half double crochet until you have about 3 left, and I'll meet you there. So when you have about 3 stitches left, okay, so you want to place a half double crochet into the next stitch, and then we are going to skip the next stitch and then place a half double crochet in the last stitch. Okay, so that is the decrease. So we are decreasing at the beginning and at the end of every row. All right, so after placing your last stitch, you chain 1, turn your work, and then for this next row we are not going to decrease. So into the very first stitch that you placed a half double crochet, and when you place your half double crochet, remember to mark your stitch. So I'm just going to mark that very first stitch, and after you have marked your stitch, you want to keep making half double crochets into each stitch. So into the next you place a half double crochet. So for this row, which is row 3, we are not skipping any stitch. We are placing half double crochets on top of every stitch until we get to the end of the row. So now I'm towards the end of the row. Okay, so I'm just showing you so that you can see that you are not going to skip any stitch. So you place your very last half double crochet into that stitch right there, and then chain one, pull up a loop, turn your work, and then for row 4 now we are going to make a decrease. So we are decreasing on every even row, so row 2, row 4, row 6, row 8, accordingly, like that. So after your very first half double crochet, you place your stitch marker. So to make our decrease, you skip the second stitch there, and then into the third stitch you make another half double crochet, and then you keep making half double crochets until you have about 3 stitches left towards the end. When you have about 3 stitches towards the end left, all right, so you want to pick the very next stitch there, and then the second one you're going to skip it and place into the very last stitch there. Okay, so that is the decrease. So remember, we are decreasing on the beginning and end of every even row. Okay, so after placing your last half double crochet, you chain one, turn your work, and for this next row now we are not going to make any decrease. We are just making regular half double crochets on every stitches. You're not skipping anyone, and then you just keep doing half double crochets all the way until you get to the end of the row. All right, so this is the pattern I want to keep repeating. So after this row of no decrease, the next row you decrease, no decrease, and then you decrease row after row until we have about 2 inches wideness left. Okay, so you can see the work have decreased, and we want to keep doing that. Our target is 2 inches. Okay, and while you do that, you notice your work is reducing, like it's forming a triangle. Keep doing that until it have reduced to about 2 inches wideness. At this point now, you can see the triangle formation is already there, and the wideness at the top there is about 2 inches, which is what I'm going for. So we'll stop making decreases. All right, so all I did was 1 row of no decrease, 1 row of decrease, 1 row of no decrease, 1 row of decrease, all the way until you have the wideness that we want, which is about 2 inches. Okay, so after that you now keep making rows of no decrease until we have the length that we need for our strap. So right now this is the length it is, so we'll keep making rows of no decrease until we have about 10 inches in length. Okay, so like so, row after row, row after row, until we have about 10 inches. So this is what I have, and you can see at this point is where I stop decreasing, and then all the way till I have about 10 inches in length for this strap. Okay, so you can see it's about 10 inches like so. So once you have 10 inches in length, the next thing we are going to do is to fasten up. So I already chain one, so you pull up a loop, and then you want to cut off the other yarn. So we have made one side of the strap. Okay, so now we are now going to flip it around, and then we are going to work on the other side of this strap as well. So we are repeating the same exact thing we did for this part. We are doing it on the other side. Okay, make sure you have the same number of stitches both at the beginning and at the end of your work. All right, so I'll meet you when we have the other strap. Now after making the second straps, okay, so yeah, the next thing now is for us to join. We're going to be joining the 2 straps together so that it is going to now be a complete shoulder strap. So to do that, you want to turn your work inside out. Okay, you're putting the right side of your work inside and the wrong side of your work outside. Okay, so once you have turned your work inside out, we are now going to arrange the 2 panels of the strap together in a way that it is not twisted and it is looking very okay. So when you arrange the 2 sides together like so, we are now going to join that top, and we'll be joining with single crochet stitches. Okay, so since my thread is on the other side, I'm going to insert my hook through this very first stitch on this side of the strap. Okay, and then I'm going to bring my yarn through that loop. Okay, so put your yarn on your hook and then pass it through to that loop there, and then you want to chain one to connect those 2 stitches together. Okay, the next thing now to do is to pick the top of the very next stitch there, like you want to make a stitch, and you pass it through onto the second stitch at the back there that they are together. So you want to find that very next stitch, you pick the top, and then the corresponding next stitch at the back there, you're going to pick it as well. So this is our second stitch that we are joining. So you make a single crochet to join. So you pick on the top of the next stitch as well, and then the one behind that is corresponding to it, you want to now make your single crochet. So you just keep repeating this all the way until you get to the end of the row. So another important thing to note is when you're finishing your strap, like I said earlier, make sure that you have the same number of stitches so that when you're joining you would not find any difficulties. Okay, so you just keep making single crochets, picking the first stitch there and the corresponding stitch behind, and then you make a single crochet to join. So you just keep doing that until you're done with all the stitches. Now when you get towards the end of that row, okay, I'm just picking the very last half double crochet there. When you do that, you do your single crochet like usual, and that is how to join the strap. So this is the wrong side of the work. Okay, you chain one, pull up a loop, and then cut off the excess yarn. So we have joined the straps, as you can see, and this is what it looks like on the wrong side, and this is what it's going to be like on the right side. So after you have joined the straps, now you want to arrange your work like we did before with the seam by the side. Okay, so you can see this is what our strap is looking like. So remember, our work is still going to be on the wrong side of the work, okay, and we are going to join the bottom part. Okay, so like I said, wrong side, this is the wrong side, and the inside is the right side of the work. So we are going to join that bottom now. So to join that bottom part, okay, you remember these two parts, those two first stitches that we are not joined. Okay, so you want to flip your work now to the side you want to work with. We are now going to attach our yarn. Okay, so to attach your yarn, you pick that very first stitch there from that other side. You pick the very first stitch and then the other very first stitch from the other side, and we are going to attach our yarn. Okay, so as you attach your yarn, it is going to join those two stitches together. So you want to knot that yarn that you just attached. So after you've attached your yarn, the next thing, now into that very first same first stitch there, you want to put your hook through, and then into the last stitch there as well, you want to yarn over, pull through, and chain one. Okay, so now just like we joined for the strap, you want to pick the next stitch and the corresponding stitch behind, and then you want to make a single crochet to join. Okay, so into the next stitch you pick, and then into the next stitch behind you also make a single crochet. So you just want to keep making this single crochet, picking the corresponding stitches. Make sure they are well aligned and try not to skip any stitch as well. Okay, so you just keep doing this all the way around until you get to the end of the row. Now as you can see, I've walked all the way towards the end of that row, so I'm just going to keep making the single crochet to join. Okay, and when I am done joining, I'm just picking the last stitch there. When you're done joining, you want to just chain one, pull up a loop, and then cut off the excess yarn. Okay, so as you can see, we have joined that base together. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the inside of our work, which is the part where we joined. So after you're done joining, the next thing now is to weave in all these ends that we have. So to weave in your ends, you want to take your yarn needle, and then on the part that you want to weave in, okay, so you want to pick a few stitches closest to where that tail is. Okay, so you want to just pick a few stitches, pick in between of these stitches. Okay, so try to weave in the color of yarn that you have to the same color of stitches. Okay, so after picking a few stitches just in between the stitches like so, you now want to feed your needle, your yarn through the needle. Okay, after you have your yarn through your needle, the next thing for you to do now is to pull on that needle there. So you push and then pull from the other side. After you pull, you straighten out your work, and then you cut off the excess yarn. So we have weaved that part in. So now you want to repeat this part on all the other places where we have our tails as well. Okay, so like this part where we switched color, you can see we have two different colors. So the purple to the purple side, and then the yellow to the yellow side. So as you can see, I'm picking a few stitches in between the purple stitches. So after feeding your needle through the stitches, you want to pick your purple yarn, okay, and then you want to put it through the needle. Once you feed the yarn through the needle, you want to weave in like we did before. Okay, so you pull your needle and then you straighten out your work and cut off the excess yarn. So we are going to weave in all the places where we have tails hanging out of our work. Okay, so we will do that and come back. So after we are done weaving in, okay, remember we weaved in on the wrong side of our work, so now we are going to turn our work inside out. All right, so you want to bring the inside part of your work out, which is going to be the front of our work. So once you're done bringing it out and arranging it, so after you turn your work inside out like so, okay, so this is what our bag looks like. Just in case you have tails like this hanging out on the right side of your work, you want to take your hook and pull that tail into the inside part of your work. Okay, so repeat the same thing on this other side as well, and then you want to weave that inside. All right, so that is it for our shoulder bag. So this is what the bag looks like. This is what it looks like on the inside part of our work. Okay, so yeah, that is it for this tutorial. You can choose to add a button to that top side so that you can fasten your bag if you prefer. All right, so you can use any button of your choice. So I'll be using this Irish crochet button that I made. You can check out the tutorial on my YouTube channel, is there as well. So we are going to attach this button on the inside part of our work like so, and we can be able to button it for it to come out on the outside. So when you button it, that closes the opening on your bag. All right, you can also choose to leave your bag without adding the button. That's also perfectly fine. The choice is yours. All right, so that will be all for this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and also leave a comment down below. You can also check out my tutorial on other videos as well. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye.